everyone, it's Joanna from Nesting Story, and today's video is going to actually be a two-parter. I really wanted to talk about self-care after Christmas and then also jump into my New Year's resolutions. So it's kind of connected, but I wanted to make them two separate videos. So while you're watching this, our family's enjoying a beautiful vacation. So if you'd like to follow along, head to Nesting Story on Instagram. So today's video, I want to talk about self-care after Christmas. Oh my goodness, it is a whirlwind at Christmas. This is probably why we go away every few years, just to get a little bit of a break. But the years we're home, we are hosting Christmas Eve. We then do our family Christmas morning. Then we're doing brunch with more family. Then we go somewhere for Christmas dinner. Then we do Boxing Day with extended family. So it is exhausting. And I really think that self-care during the holidays and right after Christmas is super important. A lot of us have kids home from school. We're trying to entertain them and clean up from the holidays, and it's just a lot to take on. I also want to mention it's super windy out and everything's kind of creaking. So I'm not sure if you can hear the creaking, but that's what that is. Our house is not haunted. It's just very windy out. So often, like for example, with our family, you're still hosting a lot after Christmas. So here's some tips that I do when I'm hosting for Christmas that can be applied after Christmas to help be able to get through those remaining days of the holidays. So when it's time for Christmas, I try to do as much as I can ahead of time to be able to handle the entertaining, the emotional up and downs with our kids and everything that's coming. I take a really good care of myself. I drop perfection and I make sure I get a lot of rest leading into Christmas. I also prep our dinner table or any kind of meals that we're hosting way ahead of time, maybe even a week ahead of time, have it sit there ready. And then I'm not trying to cook everything from scratch. I do a lot of potlucks and have a lot of people bring food to our home so that I'm not having to do everything myself. So first, my self-care does really start before Christmas because I really anticipate everything that I'm taking on during that time. Christmas time can really bring up a lot of emotions, possibly some interesting family dynamics or just memories, and I think it's really important to take time for yourself and be really kind to yourself during that time. I think that there's so much focus on Christmas, happy, joyful and everything, that we have to also remember that a lot of people can struggle through the holidays. So be sensitive to yourself, be sensitive to those around you who may be hurting. And I think it's a time to also be very aware of, what the holidays can bring up for yourself, for different people. So don't be too hard on yourself, and also for your guests coming, just remember that it's a lot of emotions during that time of year. So also make sure that you don't go too crazy with the finances, because I think a lot of the self-care and the stress we feel during the holidays is no matter how much you try to kind of like reel in the spending, it gets very pricey. So be aware of that. Try to not overspend. Again, drop the perfection and just make sure that you're keeping everything in perspective. So self-care after the holidays, and this is where it kind of intertwines with what my New Year's resolutions are going to be. But something that I've talked about before on my blog, which I will link below some of the posts that have to do with this, is making sure that you get put back on your list. I think that especially as a mom of 4 and when my kids were really little, that was something that I was terrible at. I would give and give and give and be so busy with everybody else that I would forget to put myself on my own list. And I think especially right after Christmas, just as soon as you can kind of be like, whoa, even like before New Year's, carve out some time for yourself, because I will say that from a personal experience, even after I've moved out of that mode when my kids were really little, we've had things that I wouldn't discuss on here, but really stressful things that have happened to our family, maybe someone in our family, that I felt like I just had to go into survival mode to really help that person. And again, you kind of like forget that you are on your list and you should be the very top of your list. That whole thing about putting on your oxygen mask on the plane first before putting on your child's. It's like that. That's one of the biggest things I want to stress around this time of year, is just to make sure that you are on your list. So whether it means making sure that you're carving out time if you're working through the holidays, like after work, or just slowing it down with your family and taking breaks, maybe taking a hot bath. I think also going into some self-preservation. So if there's people, and I've spoken about this on a video before, I'm remembering now, but if there's people in your world or in your family that just make you feel awful, and like, put your foot down a bit more and really hold your ground. We as a couple, as Mike and I, bringing our families together, we really talked together about what we wanted our Christmases to look like, and we have found a way to really be fiercely protective of our family unit, just the 6 of us, of our time, and then to give some time to both our families and to make it all even and not over extend ourselves or spread ourselves too thin that we dread the holidays. Some practical ways that I have really stopped and made sure that I've been able to put self-care in place, especially when I'm thinking about this video, I'm thinking about times in my life where I'm actually experiencing a lot of anxiety. I can go through some really, really anxious times, and I've been able to put some things in place. So for one thing I do is when I feel that whole anxiety thing happening where I'm spiraling, it's not just like a fleeting thought, like I can actually, like I'm starting to have trouble breathing, and I just day to day I feel like I'm moving through mud. It's just, it's an awful feeling. Something I've started to do is, and I learned from a book called The DARE Method, so you may want to look that up, about dealing with panic attacks, is I picture like a wave of anxiety coming, and instead of trying to fight that wave, letting it like come through me and pick me up and put me down, that has been huge for me. That concept of not fighting the anxiety and really just letting it flow through you. So some other things that I've done when I've really needed to carve out some time, especially when I don't have a lot of time on my plate, is some meditation. So you can go on YouTube and actually find like 5-minute meditations. There's these videos that you don't watch it, you just kind of put it beside it. I'll lay down on, say, a yoga mat upstairs in my bedroom, turn off the lights, and then play this. And it's a guided meditation. It'll just kind of walk you through some different breathing exercises. So if you even just have 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening to do this for yourself, that's really, really helpful if you're short on time, but you really need to do something for yourself to bring yourself back and put yourself first again. So I hope this has been helpful. I think it's just more of like a reminder I wanted to put out there for you, because I know I have to remind myself, and this is something that I've learned to do. I was burning myself out for years, and I just wanted to remind you this time of year, just take a minute and just kind of do a little personal triage. How are you feeling? How are you doing? What's on your plate? Is all of that necessary? And are you taking care of yourself before you jump into the new year? Thank you so much for watching, and if you haven't subscribed yet, I'd love for you to subscribe, and I'd love to know in the comments below, do you do anything specifically to center yourself? Do you meditate? Do you do anything after Christmas to like bring it back and to make sure that you're not forgotten and you're on your list? Let me know. I am now going to film the second part, which is going to be my personal New Year's resolutions, which you will see in the new year. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.